WWE has a major problem going on with Jade Cargill in this video. I'm going to tell you exactly what that is. Look, the WWE Women's Tag Team Champion, she's going to be out of action for a while. WWE did an angle on a recent episode of SmackDown where Cargill was laid out on top of a car. They didn't say who did it. Rather, they let the mystery attacker storyline play out. This caused major changes to WWE's plans. She was supposed to be part of the Women's War Games match at Survivor Series, being part of Team Rhea Ripley against Team Liv Morgan. And she was also pulled from the United States Women's Championship tournament, where she was probably going to be a favorite to win and become the inaugural champion come Saturday night's main event on December 14th. That's no good. Now, Dave Meltzer previously reported that her being written out of storylines was done to cover up an actual injury. However, the severity of the injury isn't known. What we did know, though, was the fact that she will be out of action for at least 3 months, if not longer. Now, since then, there has been a ton of either speculation or misinformation regarding Jade Cargill's status within the company. What is this injury? What is going on with Jade? Some people speculated it was a neck injury. Some people have speculated it's an MCL injury. What is going on with Jade Cargill? Because there had not been anything up to this point to indicate that she was injured, right? She was still working matches. She was still on television. There had been no word about a potential injury or a nagging injury or anything like that. And keep in mind that WWE talent, pro wrestlers in general, they're always banged up. They're always dealing with nagging injuries. So that's not necessarily anything new. But when you tuned in to Friday Night SmackDown and you saw Jade Cargill just destroyed on top of a car, you were thinking, oh, this isn't good because you don't do such an angle if she's going to miss 2 weeks, right? This was a legit injury where it was like, okay, she's going to be out for a much, much longer. And that leads us to today's video because Dave Meltzer noted on Wrestling Observer Radio that those in WWE are keeping very quiet, almost like a dang secret, as to what is going on with Jade Cargill and the nature of her injury. Now, Brian Alvarez, he speculated, well, with it being about 3 months, it could be a torn meniscus. But here's the problem that WWE faces. Regardless of what the nature of the injury is, and regardless of whether or not she's out for 3 or 6 months, what do you do with the Women's Tag Team Championships, right? What do you do? Because it's Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. They're in the middle of their second reign as champions, and they've done very well in that role. The only problem is, just like Rhea Ripley dealt with earlier this year when she suffered a shoulder injury and she was going to be out for multiple months. We didn't know exactly how long. We just knew it was going to be, 3, 6 months. You had to strip her of the Women's World Championship. So do you strip her of the Women's Tag Team Championships? Because I understand that WWE plays by a different set of rules when it comes to these sets of championships. Yes, they're booked often. Yes, they're booked with some meaningful stars, but it also depends on the champions, right? I've said this before, because if it's Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair, or Mercedes Moné and Bayley, or Mercedes Moné and Naomi, top stars that hold the championships, or at least going after the said championships, then WWE are like, oh yeah, we have these titles, let's dust these bad boys off, and let's put top stars as champions, and then we'll start defending them at PLEs and on television, and there are actually meaningful feuds, and etc. But if you have just talent that are just there, they're just holding space, then those titles aren't defended at PLEs, and they're not defended as often on television, and they don't have top storylines going on. So if you're WWE, you could actually handle it 2 different ways. One, you can just strip Jade and Bianca as the champions. You can just get rid of them, right? Done. Clear cut, dry, no big deal. Or you could just have them put the titles on ice. Bianca Belair, she can still hold the championships, but she can be booked as a top star, as a single star. Maybe you have like a Naomi or something like that, an alliance member that they've formed with as part of Team Ripley. Maybe you have someone like Naomi who hasn't done much in her WWE return. Maybe she fills in for Jade as like an honorary champion and defend the championships with Bianca. That way, A, the championships aren't on ice, and B, you can still have the championships be defended in a meaningful way with meaningful stars, right? That's the way you can do that. But at the end of the day, WWE, they're also going to be facing with the issue of they're going to be missing out on one of their most prominent stars. Now, I understand that Jade Cargill gets a lot of flack, right? She's a very controversial name. She has been since leaving AEW and signing with WWE last year. Anytime I make a video, which y'all enjoy very much so, and I appreciate y'all's support, it's always divided. You have the Jade Cargill fans, you have the Jade Cargill haters. That's just the reality of the situation. They dog on her for no reason. They think that she's overrated, etc. So WWE, not only do they face an issue with, okay, we have to change Survivor Series plans and we have to change the Women's United States Championship plans, but now we potentially have to change our Women's Tag Team Championship plans. How do we go about it? And then, oh, by the way, we're going to be missing out on a notable name as they go into 2025 with Raw on Netflix, right? So there's a lot to this. There's a lot of moving parts, and they're going to feel that hurt when it comes to lack of star power, specifically in the women's division, and more importantly, in the women's tag team title division, because you need top stars in that division to keep it afloat. You can't have a bunch of jobbers or lower card talent in there and be like, golly, these titles are prestigious. It's like, golly, you're wrong. Right? That's an issue that they're going to be facing with the Women's United States Championship. Thus, they booked a bunch of top stars, Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair, Naomi, Tiffany Stratton, Bayley, etc., in that tournament because they wanted to make the prestige at the championship very important. Now that they're introducing a Women's Intercontinental Championship belt, which I still don't know why, they're facing that issue as well. When they introduced that belt, I rolled my eyes because as soon as they announced the Women's United States Championship, I thought they made a mistake. You don't need a Women's U.S. Championship and an Intercontinental Championship. What you do need is, because of the ratio of women, you can create a secondary belt. I'm all for it. I think there's merit in that. But I also don't think you should call it the United States or the Intercontinental. You should have just called it, the Women's Championship belt or whatever. Like, just make up a name. It doesn't matter what the name of it is. The merit is this. You have a one championship that goes from Raw to SmackDown because we don't have a brand split that really is effective. They don't really play by the rules. That way, you can still have a secondary championship for talent to go after, but since you don't have the depth on your talent roster as if you do with the men, then you would just have one title that goes to both brands in which all these stars can compete. So you don't have a title for every 6 stars. You would have a title for every 12 stars or 19 stars or whatever the case may be. Jade Cargill, I felt like, was going to be a favorite in that tournament. I actually thought that she should have won that tournament. That's not going to happen. I think Bayley's going to win it now. But that's where things stand with Jade Cargill and her injury status.